Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bad Ideas Garage. My name is Steven and this is a 2023 Volvo XC90. I'm renting it here in beautiful Colorado while I'm visiting my friends. And so there are 4 adults and 3 kids, and I thought, you know what, we're gonna get something a little bit nicer for our trip so we can go and travel around Colorado in style, and we're gonna see all these beautiful places. However, that's actually been really difficult, and mostly because of that, I actually don't like the XC90. So I'm going to be reviewing this XC90 today. It's the B6 trim, and I'm going to tell you why, especially from a parent point of view, it's actually not that good of a car. Surprise! So I really hate saying this is because I generally like Volvo. I think that this is a beautiful car. There's some really great things about it, and a lot of pundits really like it. But from a parental point of view, specifically, it's actually really difficult to be able to get more than 2 kids in this, or if you have 2 kids and another adult, it's just not really possible. In fact, we've been doing that. I actually filmed a couple of times us getting in and out of the car. We've had to use the rear hatch, which is a pretty wild thing to have to do for a mid-sized family SUV. Brandon, don't you love just having to, you know, load things from the back?
Help?
Like emotionally?
You hold that. You
okay.
hold that.
Yep. Look at I'm helpful.
Oh, goodness me. Dios mío.
There we go. All right.
Dios Maya.
These are pretty good on paper, honestly. I really considered getting a plug-in hybrid version of one of these. And, you know, you're looking at $55,000, $60,000 for one of these new, and used, you're looking in the mid-30s. That's pretty good value on paper. However, based on my experience here, we had it for about a week here in Colorado, I wouldn't recommend it unless it's just maybe 1 kid, maybe 2 kids, and you're not really expecting to have anyone else in the car. All right, so we're gonna start the review. We're just gonna hop on into the car, and I have to say that this thing is absolutely gorgeous. It's one of the first things that I notice is all the materials in this. They're all really nice. So things like shutting the door, that is incredibly solid. This one is built in Sweden. I was actually curious to see if it was built in China or built in Sweden because Volvo Cars is now owned by a Chinese company. But however, this is a really nice place to be if it's just you as a driver. I have a really bad back, and these seats are just phenomenal. And in here, you can't really hear anything else that's going out around you. That's awesome. Also, the design. Absolutely gorgeous, absolutely stunning. It's been around for quite some time, but it has aged very, very well. I love the way that these look. I really wouldn't have any complaints about the interior, the quality of everything that's in here, how it looks, how it feels. However, it's just very, very difficult if you have kids to be in here. So you can see back here that we have 2 of the car seats that are right there, and trying to get an adult in the middle there was really difficult. And we have a car seat all the way in the back. You can actually see one of those seats in the back, it's down. It's because we have Brandon primarily who's back there. He enters through the back with the seat down, and then he goes back there.
Colorado. When your money doesn't say, that doesn't look enough.
I thought that this was, you know, the biggest SUV that we could get without, you know, moving into maybe like a, you know, like a Ford Transit or even getting a minivan. I really wanted to have like a luxury SUV for this trip. So that has been the biggest disappointment out of all of this is just that. Also, we're going to go out on a drive in a little bit, and the driving experience in this has also been a little bit less than ideal. So this is supposed to have, it has a mild hybrid system, and it's supposed to have near 300 horsepower. It just doesn't feel like it. The mild hybrid system is, you know, it helps propel in between the gears, and then like when you're creeping a little bit, you can actually feel it. You can also feel the regenerative brakes. There's been a couple of times where I've been trying to like creep a little bit, and I've very lightly pressed on the brakes, but it's like it's been herky-jerky. So that's actually been really, really surprising. I'm going to talk more about how it drives once I take it out for a drive, but it just doesn't feel like it has that much power considering on paper it's supposed to. So overall, we've been getting like 23, 24 miles a gallon. The highway speed here is 75 miles an hour. So as an Oregonian, that's really, really fast. And so all that's fine. I would probably, again, get the plug-in hybrid that has, what, 455 horsepower. That's the one that I would get. I imagine that that's pretty quick. But this, it just, I don't know, it's okay. I will say the suspension and everything, that's really smooth. There's a lot of potholes that we've been avoiding and stuff. All of that's been really smooth, and all of that's been fine. It handles really well, I have to say, but when we're fully loaded, I can actually feel the extra weight in the car, which I'm just kind of surprised about. This is supposed to be a luxury SUV, and maybe I just have a weird expectations. I drive around a 2013 Mazda CX-5 that's been crashed 3 or 4 times, and that's obviously not a luxury car. And so I was hoping that going for something that was like this, that's, you know, $50,000 plus car, that we were going to get something a little bit nicer. So those have just been a couple of things. So, I mean, overall, I just wouldn't buy the car. All right, going for a startup here. So of course it's got, you know, in my pocket, I have the key. So I really like this right here. So you turn that, turns right on. So you can hear it turn on. You know, this is a screen, of course. There's a screen here. I know some people have said that this is, you know, a really, really small screen. I don't really mind it. I do like how it's not up here. I do like that it's right here. A couple things about this is that I wish that there were climate controls built into here. I do like that you have a physical dial for the audio. I do like that. You have a couple of climate control things that are quick that you need to see. I do like that. However, in terms of like configurability and such, I always like to have buttons, real buttons. This is pretty intuitive. You have, you know, your butt warmers and your heated steering wheel. All of this seems fine. It actually took me quite some time to figure out, like, what's the clean zone, what's all of that do, and then how to turn it on automatic, you know, completely auto. So you press that big button here, and there's all these configurations that you can do, which is really awesome. I really like that that's the case, but it actually took me a second to figure out what that is. You can control your rear climate control from here as well. There are controls right there, and they also have butt warmers right there. You have a 360 camera. This is pretty cool. It says that you can you know, turn that off, and you can turn off your parking sensors and stuff. So I like that. The 360 camera is pretty dang good. So that's been really nice. I don't have a 360 camera in either of my cars or any of my cars. The thing that I like, YouTube on here, the quality of these videos is actually really, really nice. So we were listening to a little bit of music earlier, and it's all really, really nice. The thing that is really good on here, Google Assistant and Google Maps. I normally just plug in my phone, which you can do right through here. You can see I have my cable all set up. This is very, very good. And I've been able to do everything that I need to do here in Colorado, and I can talk with it, and it works really well. It's crystal clear. So I think that that is absolutely excellent. Even though I have an iPhone, I never had to go into CarPlay, which was really cool. So that's that. In terms of this main screen, there isn't really much that you can do in terms of configurability. I do like the setup. You have your tachometer, you have your speedometer. I like that it goes up to 130. Not that I'd ever go that fast. And you have your map right here. So this is showing the overhead map, and that's doing the turn-by-turn once you have that activated. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that, because we were going to go to this park. And over here, you press start. And over here, it does that. All of that works really, really nicely. In terms of like configurability and stuff, I was hoping, let me see here. This controls your audio, but I was hoping that there's just a couple more things that I was able to do. Okay, so you can see that I've been getting, you know, about 23 to the gallon. There isn't really much that you can do. I was hoping that there were more things that you could do to be able to do that, but it's just kind of this. So, anyways, so that was that. Couple other things. This is your cruise control. This is where you set how close you want to follow. The self-driving quote unquote that you have on this works really well, I have to say. The following distance is really good. The acceleration is really good. Out on the highway, this thing, it does work really well. But you can choose between a steering mode where it'll steer for you. You have to keep your hand on the steering wheel, but it'll steer for you. Or you can just do the adaptive cruise control, and that's how you control all of this within that. You have your, to open up the rear trunk, of course you have everything is power locks and power mirrors and all of the stuff that you'd expect in a modern vehicle. You have all of that. You have your headlight control. We just leave everything to auto. There's fog lights that are right here. I have no idea what this reset button does. Oh, that's how you reset your fuel economy and your trip computer and stuff. Okay, that's fine. So I gotta say, from like a ergonomic point of view, all of it makes sense. I had to kind of figure out how to turn on and off the rear windshield wiper once, but other than that, all of that, it makes sense. Everything's in a very intuitive place. Maybe my expectation was too high, but I thought that there was going to be more configuration than what you can do right there in the screen for the gauge cluster. But the vast majority of the time, I've had to be on maps anyways. I use maps all the time regardless, because I always want to get home or wherever in the most efficient manner. So all of that is all fine and dandy. So again, we're very much just living in this car, as you can tell, because we're on vacation. It is kind of weird that you have to have a button to open that up, but I guess other car manufacturers are going to that. Another thing that I wanted to mention, this has the automatic hold right here, so this will hold at stoplights for you without having to press any of the buttons or any of the pedals. That works really well. Of course, the e-brake works really well. This is how you start and stop the car, which is really cool. So this is how you shift it in between the gears, and it took a second to be able to figure this out. So you have down goes to drive, up goes into reverse, and then you have P for park. A couple of times I've actually had to like sit and hold that in order for it to go into park. I will say that if you turn this off while the car is in gear, it'll automatically go and go into park for you. But it took me a couple of times to be like, okay, this is what you have to do. And also, to get down, there is a manual mode that you can pull this all the way down and shift left and right. I wasn't quite sure how to do that at first. That was not intuitive, even though right there in the gauge cluster, you can see that there is a manual mode. I couldn't quite tell and figure out how to do that. But honestly, I was only doing that because I was going down a hill, and I was going to do a little bit of engine braking just to see if that would do anything. I probably would never mess with it. Most people probably never mess with it, but yeah, it's a thing. But I could see also, as we're starting to like cruise down a hill, this little indicator right here, that's the battery for the mild hybrid system. And as you're going down, you can press on the brake and it starts to, do a little bit of the regen. That was really helpful. And that I was thinking, well, I'd rather just do that. Hopefully it's not burning out the brakes or whatever. I'm not going to be riding them, of course, but I could see that it's, regenerating some of that stuff and hopefully not using the brake pads as much. There isn't really much more to say about this besides there's a couple little things like right here, you have a little Swedish flag, which is really fun. Back here, it's nice. It's a good place to be. I think that, if you're a kid, we're going to get a minivan, which is going to be great. You have like this huge, gigantic sunroof, which is up here, and that's really cool to have. But for $55,000, $60,000, I'm just not quite sure if it's worth it. Okay, other fun things. Some car manufacturers don't have the unlock button on all of the doors. I really like that this does because it has been really helpful. Okay, so, well, you can obviously see where my kid has been sitting. So, sorry, Hertz, about that. But you can see like rear-facing car seats are just gigantic and massive. And so even in the most upright position, we don't get a lot of room that's in there, and that seat's actually pushed forward quite a bit. But again, you get some rear controls that are back here. I'm not sure if you get any. Okay, there's a charge port down there. Okay, that's a USB charge port. A couple other things, you get this, you get that. That's really cool and awesome. But again, we've been back here with kids. So yeah, let's go ahead and move. And this is how you would normally be able to get into the back. But if you have two car seats, I guess I could like move this one over to that seat. But I don't know. It just, getting those two close together, and especially sometimes I want my kids to be separated. I don't know. It's just, that's been the hardest part of this whole experience, is between that and then back here. So this is the B6. The B5 apparently has a little bit less horsepower, but it's kind of set up in the same way. But back here as well, there's just not a lot of space. So you can see that, yes, there's a cup holder that's back here. You get your own air vents, which is really nice. But it's just not a lot of space. You can see that that was a temporary measure to try to get this into place. There's no car anchors back here. I should probably preface that make sure that you are always putting your car seats in completely properly before you are ever going anywhere, but I digress. There's no anchors back here. So normally you'd have, car seat anchor. There's none. So maybe they thought that no one would ever put car seats back here, but there's just none, and I just kind of find that astounding. And then also we have a very normal stroller, and it's taking up most of the back here. So yeah, I mean, there's a couple of like touch points where you can like anchor things down. It just seems like for this much money we'd be able to have those kids in here, and it's just kind of disappointing that was the case. Also, apparently, if I have this in my pocket and I go like this, oh, there it goes. Okay. I know that's something that my wife wants. Honestly, we're gonna get a Honda Odyssey. I think that's it. So I'm putting this into video form, so I guess now we have to do it. Okay, we're gonna go for a drive, and we're gonna try to see how the stabilization works. Part of this is also because my son has decided on this vacation that it is no longer time to, sleep. So I'm actually right next to the United States Air Force Academy. We're gonna do an acceleration run. Actually, we can do a full acceleration run because I'm about to get on a highway that's a 75 miles an hour highway, and we don't have those in Oregon. All right, so 3, 2, 1, full throttle. Okay, that's 60. I don't know. So I know that I was ragging on the drivetrain. I mean, it's okay. Something that I didn't really highlight nearly enough is that when you're doing 75 miles an hour on the highway, well, now I'm doing 65, driving to 65, this thing is stellar. It's very quiet. It takes all of the anomalies in the road and the bumps in the road, and it's very, very quiet, and I really like it. So we're also going to take a pretty steep turn here, a curly Q to get off the highway. It's very, very uneventful. It actually feels like it handles really well. So I know that I was saying that I don't really like the drivetrain, but the way that it handles is quite nice. It just seems like it feels like it should have more power for 300 horsepower, but at the same time, this thing weighs quite a bit. So I'm going to give points back for that, even though still it's still challenging to get car seats in the back of this car. There's an E. Okay, that was hilarious. There's a Miata trying to go after an Evo over here and is failing miserably, and then there's a BMW that decided to go that way, going very, very fast. That was definitely, I think that was an M240 or whatever the heck they called. Anyways, so the brakes are really good. They're very, very strong. There just seems to be a little bit of programming, or you could feel when the regen brakes are versus the regular brakes. They're just not quite as smooth as probably that I would expect. But then again, I don't drive around with a car that has brakes like this whatsoever. I did have a Chevy Spark. I had a 2015 Chevy Spark that had regen brakes. It was a full electric, and I could tell also when that came on. But I mean, I could also tell it in this as well, and this is a 2023 Volvo, which is a very, very different car. In everyday driving, there's definitely more than enough power, and to be able to even get on it to get going, it's fine. It's more than enough power for what I need it to do. But again, it feels like if you have 300 horsepower, it just seems like it would be more than what it is. There are 8 speeds in this transmission, and it does seem like it might have to hunt maybe a little bit, but that's what the mild hybrid is supposed to be helping with. That it's supposed to help you be ready to go and give that little bit of extra torque to be able to get it to go whenever you need it. So I don't know, maybe I'm thinking into this a little bit too much. All right, so as the sun is going down over the beautiful and majestic Rocky Mountains here, I am going to increase my score of, I guess, what I would give this. I mean, I was honestly thinking like a 6 out of 10 if I was going to be giving a score and whatnot, but I'm actually going to increase that to an 8 out of 10. And part of it is just so I can remove my own bias about getting car seats in the back. I mean, that was frustrating a couple of times. Anyone who has kids knows that it can be frustrating getting kids in the car and having to load adults from the back was just a no-no. I still think that the dimensions are just a little bit off to have, just those 2 seats in the back, and lack of child seat anchors in the very back, and just a little bit off still for this drivetrain. However, besides that, this is a pretty good value comparatively. I can't believe I'm saying that a vehicle that starts at $55,000 is a good value, but it's a pretty good value for what you get, especially because it is very, very quiet. It is very, very smooth. I'm about to go get on the highway. It's 75 miles an hour here, which is very weird for this Oregonian to be driving through that. And I'm going to pop on the self-driving, and it's just going to be wonderful. We're going to waft over the interesting highway anomalies that we have here, and hopefully my kid, who's sitting right behind me, is going to fall asleep. That is the goal of this point of the video, and I think he's going to do it. So all in all, if you want to get one of these, I think it's a pretty good example. The build quality is great, the materials are good, and as I've been driving it, I've been liking it more, but honestly, I would still not buy it. I would most likely highly consider the Mazda CX90, the plug-in hybrid in particular, if you wanted to get a hybrid. If you wanted to get more of the performance-y version, I would go get the Mazda CX90 with the inline 6 and the turbo. that's what I would really consider getting. Part of my bias with that is because I own Mazdas. I know how much they've stepped up their game. My 2013 Mazda feels like a very regular car. The 2017 Mazda that we have, the GT version of it, it has the leather and the bows and like all the materials. It's completely different. So I think that Mazda has achieved, if they want to compete with cars like this, I think they've done it. Okay, so let's talk about the whole self-driving system. So it is 75 miles an hour, and I am doing 75 miles an hour. All I have to do is press the cruise control button, and it'll start doing the cruise control for what I set it to. But I press the right button, it'll start steering for me. Now, this thing, honestly, it's really good. Like the lines are not very clear. I mean, even for my own eyes, it's not really clear like where the white solid line along the outside is. This does a really good job of being able to take all of that into account. And I can actually take my hands off the steering wheel, but you're not supposed to, because this is not a level 3 self-driving system. But I could sit here and I could drive for a very long time. I actually drove down from Denver down to Colorado Springs doing this, and it was just lovely. And the steering actually makes a lot of corrections, so it is kind of weird. I can feel it in my hand going back and forth, which is kind of odd. But it does lane center very well. And if you don't want that, you can just leave it on the regular adaptive cruise control. I was in traffic as well, all the way down to 0 miles an hour, and it did a really good job. There was one time where we were doing 65, and I was going to see if it was going to stop, and it got a little bit too close for me, so I manually pressed the brakes. However, in traffic, when we got down to 0 miles an hour and then got back to 19, down to 0, up to 5, it did a really good job with that. So in terms of self-driving systems, this one's pretty good. I mean, at this point, I've driven a lot of them. The Hyundai system is probably still the one that I like the best, just because it felt like it was really easy to turn on and off, and it turns really well. It is very precise. This one just feels a little bit softer, if that's a thing. And the Hyundai system felt like I could like give a little bit more input. This one actually it'll fight you. Like if it's like, no, we're turning here, it'll fight you. So I feel like I have to kind of arm wrestle it once it's on a little bit. So when you put your blinker on, that fighting that you have to do, it releases it, which is really nice. So I don't know. I felt like just the combination of the driver input versus sensor input of the self-driving was way better with the Hyundai. Overall, this is a fine system, though. I wouldn't really buy or not buy a vehicle based on the differences between the two, but Hyundai system is probably my favorite at the moment. In terms of capability, the Tesla system is probably the one because you can take your hands off the steering wheel. Probably the most advanced I've ever driven so far. But I still like the Hyundai system. Just because a couple of times on that Tesla, when I ticked it off, doing things that it told me not to do, it said you can't turn the system back on until you park the car, and I didn't really feel like doing that. So Hyundai for the win. So that's all we got for this Volvo XC90. Very sorry that I'm not like super excited about it, and in fact, like I kind of don't like it because of that driving experience and the the bad experience of trying to be able to put a bunch of kids in here and the stuff. But I can see why people like these, and there are a lot of these that have been sold. It is really good looking. When you're out on the road, especially on road trips, it's very comfortable. It takes bumps and little curves in the road very well, and it gets decent gas mileage. That's not bad. But that driving experience, it feels like it should be more. I would really like to drive the plug-in hybrid version that has 450 horsepower to see what that's like. But still, like anytime I'm out and about, my kids are probably with me. So personally, I would not recommend this. There are a lot of really good cars in this segment. And honestly, I'd be really curious about the Mazda CX-90. So you all probably know that we drive Mazdas. And when that came out, that was really interesting to us. However, then we started to price it out and we realized, wow, this car starts at 50K and works its way up to 60K. So it's the same price as this. And Mazda interior quality is really good. And we love the way that our Mazdas drive, even though they have very little power. And I'd much rather have a vehicle that has less power but feel like you're going okay. So I'd much rather have that rather than this where you're supposed to have 300 horsepower, you're supposed to feel like you can go, but you just don't. So maybe that's a me thing. But I'd really consider the Mazda CX-90. You can get it with a straight 6 with a turbo. You can get it with a plug-in hybrid. So I think that that's the next car that we're going to go and test drive because I have priced it against the Honda Odyssey. And the sliding doors, y'all, sliding doors. I know it's not cool or whatever, but for kids, there's just nothing better than that. But for my own sanity, I need to go drive the CX-90 because if I'm saying no to that, and I'm saying yes to a minivan, I gotta go drive it. So that's all we got here in the Bad Ideas Garage. Thanks for watching this. If you're a parent and you have any thoughts about trying to get car seats in the third row of an SUV, drop a comment below. Things that we have coming up on the Bad Ideas Garage, I just got that 1948 back to the Oregon Fire Service Museum, so I'm gonna be doing an old start on that. Really excited about that, old start, cold start. The Shelby Daytona, the 87 Shelby Daytona, that's going to be back at my house at some point. We're working out some paperwork with that, so that's probably a little bit ways out. And then, of course, I'll do a couple of videos on my Subaru and my Mercedes that I have. All of those are always fun here in the Bad Ideas Garage. So like and subscribe. Also check us out YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Completely unique content on each one of those. Like and subscribe, comment, whatever you got to do. We appreciate it, and we'll catch you later.